Hello, what is up guys? EvilDuoSarm here today, back with another Blade & Soul video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the weapon upgrade system in Blade & Soul, more specifically, the most efficient or easiest way to upgrade your weapon as a new player, returning player, wherever you are. We're going to go through a bunch of different scenarios, and there'll also be a spreadsheet that you can just type in your own numbers and figure out which way is the best for you. This is a video that I have several versions of out on the channel, and a lot of people have been sending me messages recently like, hey, is this still up to date? And I'm like, no, it's not up to date. So I'm going to go ahead and make you the up-to-date version right now for your viewing pleasure. Real quick, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, new to Blade & Soul, or enjoy the content on the channel, please consider subscribing. We're getting close to that 20K number, and I would love to hit it. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's take a look at the Control-I menu, press Control-I on the keyboard to bring this up, and look at the weapon upgrade paths. So, the weapon in Blade & Soul, the PvE weapon, is split into two categories. We have the PvE path, and we have the raid path. The raid path requires you to run 12-member raids, progressing further and further into the difficulties of the game to improve your character. You need to get items that drop specifically from raids to progress down that tree. The PvE path, on the other hand, you can sort of just F8 it as you progress and get better and better gear to be able to progress your weapon. You don't necessarily need a full team, you don't need a time commitment, you don't need to get 12 people together. Hey man, we gotta run this raid today. So you have an easier way to gear up your character if you're more of a solo type player. Do know that the PvE path is a lot weaker damage-wise compared to the raid path. So what a lot of people tend to do, or the historical thing that people would do, was rush up the PvE path as far as they could go quickly because it was the cheapest, and then swap over to the raid path at the end. So they could upgrade this really, really quickly up through the PvE path, and then they could get the raid stuff and slowly progress through that as they got further and further in the raids. That is not the case anymore, and we're going to take a look at the different costs here from some sample things. But if you do want to test the math on anything, there is a spreadsheet with some calculations in it that you can go ahead and just type in your own numbers for. So anyway, enough about how the different paths in the game work. Basically, we're going to take a look at the PvE path versus the raid path and take a look at the cost between the two. So I have a spreadsheet put together, and this is the spreadsheet right here. So the spreadsheet has the current NA marketplace values here, and this spreadsheet will be linked in the description below, so you can take it. If you're on EU, you can change the value of these different items, and it'll update the spreadsheet and give you an idea here. So the very first tier of upgrades that anybody's going to have to do in the game as a new player is going to be the Rift Dawn to the Aransu 3 tier. Do note that by upgrading to Aransu 3, you are locked into Aransu 3 for the rest of these upgrades. So, if you decide that you want to go further up the PvE path, do not upgrade to Aransu 3, and instead stay on the Riftwalk 9 path. You're going to see that the cost really doesn't matter too much at all, but if you wanted to go up the PvE path instead, make sure you do not upgrade to Aransu 3, because once you do that, you're locked in. The same goes when we talk about Grand Celestial 3, the same goes when we talk about Thornbreaker 3. You are locked in once you get to that tier 3 on the raid path. So if you want to do PvE, make sure to stay on the PvE side. But anyway, the first breakpoint as a major DPS increase as a new player is going to be going from the Rift Dawn to Aransu 3. So going from Rift Dawn up to Aransu 3. That Aransu 3 gives you a lot of damage bonus. And as you can see from the spreadsheet, we go ahead and take some numbers, do the math, blah, 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 blah. TLDR literally does not matter which path you go here. You're going to be spending the same amount of money as long as you farm up all of your materials. So this is the cost if you were to just buy it entirely outright, just buy the materials, which nobody's going to do. You're going to farm up the materials. And these are the items that you cannot farm that you need to buy. So the cost there is within 20 gold of each other. It doesn't really matter which route you go. If we look at the next stage, which is Raven 9 to Grand Celestial 3 or the Rift Dawn to Grand Celestial 3, you will see once again the cost really doesn't matter. It's actually about 500 gold more expensive to go up the PvE path. So to go from this Rift Walk Stage 9 pistol right here all the way up to Grand Celestial 3 compared to going from Raven 9 to Grand Celestial 3. So the costs here, once again, pretty much the same, within 500 gold of each other. That's more than enough margin of error for me. Do note that I'm not taking into account items that you pretty much have to farm. What's an item that you pretty much have to farm? Something like Hive Queen's Hearts. That's something that you're going to have to farm. Now, yes, you can buy them off of the marketplace, but for the most part, anybody who's using them is going to farm them, get them from Daily Dash or other sources. This is only the basic generic materials that everybody will pretty much decide, well, am I going to farm it or am I going to buy it? The next one is going to be Aransu 9 or Storm Dragon 9 through to Thornbreaker 3. And once again, in case you're not picking up a theme, the total cost is within 300 gold of each other, so really no gain at all. The first time that you actually save some money is when you go from Grand Celestial 9 to Thornbreaker 9, or from Shadow Forge 9, which is right here, up through to Thornbreaker 9. If you go up the PvE path on this one, you're going to wind up saving 1,000 gold between the two. So what does all of this mean? Basically, your TLDR is it doesn't matter which path you go up while upgrading your weapon. You're going to be within 500 gold of each other either way. 500 gold might sound like a lot, but with the fluctuations in market price from the time this video comes out, if you want to buy different items, it really does, there's not much of a difference between the two paths as far as cost goes. The only time that it does begin to matter is when you get to the Grand Celestial 9 to Thornbreaker 9 tier. Also worth noting is that the savings from the Grand Celestial 9 to Thornbreaker 9 by going up the PvE path is completely negated when you have to switch from Grand Celestial 9 to the Wing Song in order to make that upgrade. So really, the cost between all of these things has been balanced incredibly well. There's no best path anymore. So your only decision you really need to make at this point is whether you want to do the PvE path or if you want to go up the raid path. So if you like doing more raids and you're going to have a steady raid group, go up the raid path. If you're going to be with randos, pugging with a couple of friends of yours, you're going to want to go up the PvE path. So anyway, guys, I hope you found this video useful and it helps you to decide which path you want to do to upgrade your weapon. I just want to point out one more time that the raid side does do more damage across the board for just about every class. So try to stay in that path if you can, or make your final upgrade into that path if you're going to stay in that one for a while. If you're trying to progress quickly, or if you really only can play with yourself, you're going to want to stick in the PvE section. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you at the next stream, video, wherever I happen to see you. Peace.